What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and once again, we are here with
Gershwin.
and this is For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put a question in front of your question because we get those questions first. And odds are that we are going to get interrupted during the filming of this video, so just a heads up.
7 up. So put your heads down, thumbs up, and let's hope nobody sits on it.
Yeah. Or maybe you want somebody to sit on it, because that's your kink. This question comes from Crumpet Overlord.
It's the best name.
Could Fabius Bile create a clone of the Emperor? That would be extremely difficult.
Yeah, Fabius Bile is known to tinker with things here and there, but he never really makes anything of note.
And you have to remember how the Emperor was created.
Mm-hmm.
The Emperor was created through the sacrifice of 100 shaman, and they weren't just like regular, like oh, take this CBD or take this, what is it, ayahuasca. No, like, they were legit, like, psychers.
Mm-hmm.
They sacrificed themselves, and they created the new man, a.k.a. the Emperor.
Yeah. Not 99 of them. You got to remember it's 100.
100. Or was it 1,000?
1,000. It was 1,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Fabius Bile can't do that.
Mm-mm. Fabius Bile can create Chaos Space Marines with +1 toughness, +1 wound. That's a whole lower ball game than creating an Emperor.
Exactly.
He's tinkering with custodians, and what do we get out of that? Nothing. Thanks, Psychic Awakening.
Yep. Just teasing and teasing and teasing. That's what GW does.
Yeah, and where does that get you?
Hard.
Blue balls.
Yeah. This question comes from Din Tran. Would Chaos Marines take in mutants into the Marines ranks?
Yeah, why not? They're just like little brothers to them.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Iron Warriors did when they were creating, I forget what they're called, but it basically Chaos Space Marines that were made by taking two women, sewing them together, inserting a fetus of a mutant child, and then giving birth to Chaos Space Marines. Mm-hmm. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Where's the Demon Kulaba lore now? Like, how long ago has that been a thing?
Yeah.
That's probably not a thing anymore.
The Demon Kulaba?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it's a thing. I just don't think that they talk about it because it was a book, and I don't think they retconned that book.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Kangaroo Boxer. Do Space Marines fart? And if so, how brutal are their farts? Well, because farting depends on what you put into your body, and Space Marines don't really need to eat like that.
They usually just sweat, so they sweat their farts out.
And their poo too. So that's like when they go like this, there's like a brown smear.
Yep. That's why they have the little dots like right here, so that they don't do that anymore. Because that looks bad.
Mm-hmm. Missing no Ocho the Moon Man. Given that Gasgul is basically the only hope for orcs to return to Krork, are any other war bosses' goals even relevant now?
Yeah, like Snickrot, WAAAGH, those war bosses are still relevant because all they want is destruction. And honestly, I think they downplay Gasgul's importance to the orcs. But then at the end of the day, it is orcs are just fighting. That's all they care about. So, You're looking at it all wrong.
Or are you?
Next question.
Din Tran, once again. What unit do you want to see from the lore be introduced to the tabletop as a GW model?
That doesn't have one already?
Those reptile things. What are they called? They have like 4 legs. They got like chainsaw arms.
Oh, the what are they called? Dang it! It's gonna come to me later. Rat Goal.
There you go. The rat goals. Those are pretty cool.
Those are
Those and the little trash men that control time.
Yep. What are those called?
Squiggly beasts. No, that's an orc thing.
I thought they were working with the Tau.
I thought so too, but I might be confusing too. Because there's one that's made out of worms, and there's the actual Trashman Tau thingies.
Okay, the Trashman Tau thingies, those are they kind of look like raccoons with trash, right? Mm-hmm. And then the worms look like worms.
Yeah, they remind me of those, what are they called? The things in Star Wars. Jawas.
Oh, yeah. What does a Jawa look like?
Mm-hmm.
Next question comes from Poke Fox Betchy. What is the training and selection process of a Grey Knight? How is it different than Space Marines? And lastly, are they chosen from Psychers or are they trained to become Psychers?
They're like, well, there's psychers that are put on the black ships and taken to Titan, and there's like a bunch of tests and stuff, and it's very difficult to become a Grey Knight.
Yeah, it'd be like that.
And I would tell you more, but we're getting interrupted.
So we'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, as always, Sound Alchemist,
Gerjuan.
talking to you later.
Now, you know I can't just leave you guys with 5 minutes of the Greater Wall. I'm going to continue the rest of the Greater Wall without the Sound Alchemist because obviously he's not here. That day we were interrupted by a friend who is a Dark Eldar player and a terrible Raven Guard player because we were just about to play we were about to play 2 games of 9th edition. It was my second game and I unfortunately lost. It was my orcs versus the Raven Guard player, and the Raven Guard player just really knew how to choose secondary objectives. And in this latest edition, secondary objectives are vital to you winning the game. So I ended up just forfeiting the game turn 3 because I knew that there was no hope. Like, he was beating me in points. Like, he had double the amount of points that I had. So I was just like, you know what, let's just quit, let's go eat. And then the Sound Alchemist also didn't do so well that day. He went, I think he was playing Space Marines versus Necrons, and he also lost. Same thing. He says that the game was close, but the guy had double the points. I don't think it was very close. So yeah, it's just a learning. There's a learning curve when it comes to this game, just because it is a lot more tactical, because of the fact that you have secondary objectives, and you don't just have one. You have 3 on top of the mission objectives. So it's one of those situations where it almost felt like I was playing 3 or 4 games all at once, where I had to like pay attention to like the 3 different objectives, and then also at the same time, because I chose shitty secondary objectives, it was like I should be focusing on this, but if I focus on this secondary objective, I can't fulfill this objective. So it's just like, oh, you have to create synergy and all this other junk. So, but yeah. So let's continue answering the questions. This question comes from Benjamin Hansen. Also, I can't really remember what questions we've already answered. That was filmed on Sunday, and then today is today. So sorry if I redo some questions. But Benjamin Hansen says, what would happen if Kroots ate Space Marines? I think that this has happened in the lore. If you read the old, because I think it was 5th edition on Forge World. Forge World actually came out with a mercenary codex for the Kroot, and you could buy Krootoxes, the giant Kroot. I forget what they're called, but they're just basically like different levels of Kroot. Like they look like predator birds. But in that lore, or in that codex, there was lore that talked about Kroot eating Space Marines, and I think their muscles just got really like stronger, or kind of like when they eat orcs, their muscles just grow bigger. But when they ate Space Marines, because the muscles of a Space Marine are kind of like wires or like metal, the Kroots just got a lot stronger. They were also able to spit acid, just like Space Marines, and that's as much as I remember. I don't know where I could find that codex anymore. I've tried looking it up on Forge World, but Forge World has removed not only all those old articles, but also the models. The models for the Kroot mercenary army are not there anymore, which is a shame because it was a really cool army, and it was like a nice primitive like version for 40K. So they kind of reminded me of the lizard men from Fantasy, or the, what are they called now? The Sarah something? Yeah, they reminded me of the lizard men, but just in 40K. So they actually had Kroot rifles. They had like cool, like, it looked like Gatling guns on top of these giant Kroot bird things. But yeah. Next question comes, and then for all those that don't know, the lore of the Kroot is basically they eat, whatever they eat, they gain certain attributes about the enemy that they just ate. So, yeah. Check out our 40 facts on the Kroot if you want to learn more. That's a pretty good video. I worked pretty hard on it, so you guys should check it out. Next question comes from Jimmy Mikon. Will the Tau develop and use melee weapons? They kind of do already. They just suck at them. One of the most important weapons for a Tau Fire Warrior is like this blade that they get when they have their whole initiation thing, and like there's a bloodletting ritual and all this kind of stuff. The Sound Alchemist would know more about it, but you could also just check out our 40 facts on the Fire Warriors. But yeah, so they do have melee weapons. They're just shit at it because Fire Warriors, even though they're the toughest of the Tau castes, they're still nothing compared to an Orc or a Space Marine or even a Dark Eldar. So will they ever develop melee weapons? Probably not. Like they're not more so than they already have. Some battlesuits are already specifically geared towards melee, and they still suck. Both tabletop and lore. Well, not so much lore, I guess. But there's usually plot armor around the lore to somebody who's close combat, like Farsight or the latest chick that just came out, the one that was in Stasis. I forget her name. Shadow Sun, I think it is. But yeah. Next question comes from Steve Aden. Is the Emperor aware that the Imperial Truth is long dead and instead his subjects started to worship him? I think we already answered this, and the answer is yes. The Emperor has spoken to Alicia Dominica, has spoken to Gilliman, and it seems like every time they do that and those people come out, they just say, like, yeah, like we're doing the best we can. Humanity's doing the best they can. Let's go on crusade or let's go fight the enemies. But they never say, hey, stop worshiping him or anything like that. So, yeah. Next question comes from Ty Shingleton. If all humans began to think like gamers, I think we read this also. Could all orc red bits on their armor explode when shot? No, I don't think that's how that works. It only affects orcs and it affects probability, not so much just like, it's not just like, just because an orc thinks it or just because it's connected to the orcs doesn't mean that it's true, I guess. But yeah, I still need to create a 40 facts video on WAAAGH energy, and that explains a little bit about what the old ones did to the orc biology in order for them to have that ability to affect probability, so that when they see things that are red, it goes faster. Or they use a weapon. Normally it should explode in their hands, but for them it works. And it works because, you know, there's like 1 out of 100 chance that it's going to work, and the orc's energy just affects it that way. But yeah, I'll try to be more thorough when I do the explanation in the 40 fact video. Next question comes from White Wine Weister. Do you ever think there could be a Hollywood movie or a series set in the 40K universe, considering the xenophobic nature of the universe? Obviously, the lore is there. Do you think movie studios and directors would shy away from it due to the social taboos of some of these ethics? Well, it's funny because they're xenophobic against aliens. I think that they would love that. They would play around with that subject matter. There was because it's not like they're being racist against a certain race, or they're not being xenophobic against a certain human race. They actually do the opposite. Like, if you are human, you're gonna be like part of the Imperium, whether you want to or not, kind of thing. I think there's a series on Amazon Prime with the guy from Lord of the Rings. I forget his name. He's also on Pirates of the Caribbean, but basically it's like a fantasy setting set in like the 1800s, and then you have fairies, you have elves, you have satyrs, so like horned people, and it plays on the idea of like humans are racist against or xenophobic against these creatures that like have horns, and like basically all the mythical creatures that are in that world. And I think that's what makes that whole world and that whole series intriguing. It's like, oh cool, you get to talk about the xenophobia and stuff like that. So no, I don't think people would shy away from it. I think directors would see that as more of like oh cool, we can really do something with this, especially if the difficult part about the 40K universe is that the Xeno races are not nice. They're not good. The closest thing you can get to like a viewer feeling sorry for a Xeno race would be a Tau, and like you would really have to be very specific about what location you are or where the setting is being placed. So it has to be somewhere in the eastern fringe, which then you have to tie in the Tyranids, just because in order to fit with the lore. Well, not really. You could just be creative, but the thing about the Tau, even though they're the good guys, they're still very like. They want control of the government. They want control of trade. They want control of all that kind of stuff. So there's so many negatives to each culture, or to each race and faction within Warhammer 40K, that it's difficult to set it to put the xenophobic setting in the 40K universe and still feel sorry for like orcs. Nobody's going to feel sorry for an orc that's trying to like murder an entire family. Same thing with the Eldar. Eldar are cocky and they're just built like they're people you don't like, or they're aliens you're not going to like. So I don't know. But I think that whole thing is a positive, not a negative, to making 40K interesting, and throwing out moral conundrums and stuff like that. But yeah. Next question comes from Andrew Krostick. If Karn is Khorne's chosen, what else does he possibly have to be elevated to a demon prince? I think the Sound Alchemist answered this one, so I'm not even going to touch that one because I think that was answered in the video at some point. Next question. Let's see if I can find one. This one's by Rhinil Calderon. What if the most mysterious, powerful human character was actually the God Emperor himself, and the corpse that sits on the Golden Throne was Horus himself? Because during the Horus Heresy, at the battle between Horus and the Emperor, they might actually have switched places. Maybe the time Horus was evaporated, it was actually the Emperor himself, teleported someplace to heal, and his badly wounded Emperor was actually Horus himself, now keeping alive by 1,000 souls a day. Horus does not have the psychic abilities to power the Astronomicon, so I don't think that it is Horus on the Golden Throne, because the person on the Golden Throne is actually empowering the Astronomicon, and we know that it's the Emperor. Also, there have been people that, like I said earlier, there have been people that have visited the Emperor and have spoken to him. And like I said before, there have been people that have spoken to the Emperor and that have visited him. So we know for sure that those people would react negatively if it was Horus instead of the Emperor on the Golden Throne. And also if the Emperor is being like a mysterious, powerful man, kind of like Cypher, like why? Like it just doesn't make sense. It's just like... just his whole point was to be proactive. Why hide in the shadows? Especially when you have like your enemies are the Chaos Gods or the Eldar, or the Necrons, who have way more intelligence. Well, they probably wouldn't be the Necrons, but like the Eldar or Chaos, who have way more knowledge than the Emperor, I guess. They would be able to pick him out from the crowd or within the warp and stuff like that. It would be a cool theory. But yeah, I don't think it would really work. Next question comes from Celine Hernandez. Can adult men become Space Marines, or is it only kids that are turned into Space Marines? Yeah, adult men can become Space Marines, but it's very unlikely that they will survive the process. The only adult Space Marines that I know of off the top of my head are within the Wordbearers Traitor Legion. So when Lorgar was reconnected with his legion, I think it was Corferon and Erebus, who were already basically adults. They were teachers to Lorgar, and they went through the process of becoming a Space Marine, and they did. You should check out our 40 facts on the worst Space Marines, or worst Chaos Space Marines, but I go through like why Erebus was so shitty and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, they were adults, and they became Space Marines. So it's possible, just very unlikely. Especially now with the Rubicon, crossing the Rubicon. So on top of the fact that you're a Space Marine, you have to be a Primaris Space Marine. So yeah, and that all happens at once. It's not like first you become a Space Marine, then you become a Primaris. But yeah. Next question comes from Veek. The Chaos Gods are known to be fickle. On average, do you think there is a percentage of successful ascensions to demonhood, demon prince, or otherwise? No, I don't think there's a percentage. I think there are a lot more there are a lot more demon princes than humanity knows about, and because 40K is set through the perspective of the Imperium, so humanity, they only know about the demons that are fighting humans. They sometimes hear about like demons fighting with the Eldar, with the Tau and stuff like that, but for the most part, I don't think we could put a percentage on it because GW has never really released the true scale of how many demons there are. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. This is going to be the last question by Adeptus Astartes. I am currently building an army that is a mix of Ultramarines, an Inquisitor, Imperial Guard, and some Cadian. I tried to do that. Is this a bad idea? Should I just keep an Ultramarine-only army instead? No, you should definitely go for the full Imperial thing. You could even throw Skitarii in there, which is what I did too. Yeah, it just becomes way more interesting lore-wise, where you could throw in like, why are the Ultramarines working with the Inquisition? Why are the Ultramarines, or why is the Imperial Guard? Well, you said Cadians, so like, how did the Cadians survive and all that kind of cool stuff. I think it's a really good idea. It's just a lot of work, so you kind of have to be dedicated. The reason that I have stopped was because of that whole like dedication thing. Like, I just couldn't do it. But it wouldn't have mattered if I would have done just Space Marines or if I would have done like a combination of all Imperial factions. The army wasn't complete because I was lazy. So it's kind of the same thing with you. Or not the same thing with you, but like that is the question that you need to ask yourself. Am I going to be dedicated to completing this army? Because if I am, then go for it. But if you're not, then it doesn't matter what army you're going to create. You're probably not going to finish it. Yeah, you should definitely do that. Post lore videos or not lore videos. Well, you could, but create lore based around the interactions between all those factions too. That's the fun part, like explaining why each faction is working with each other. And then if you want to just do Ultramarines, like a straight Ultramarine army, you could, but it's boring. Why do that? But yeah. Those are the questions for today. Thank you guys so much for asking, and I'll talk to you next week with the Sound Alchemist. Hopefully we don't get interrupted. Yeah, this was Gershwin of One Mind Syndicate signing out.